our last devotional thought today, we're going to look at Matthew chapter 5, beginning with verses 17 to 20. It is amazing to me how people misunderstood the purpose of Jesus then, and even now, people still misunderstand the purpose of Jesus. Now, listen to what he says. Verse 17. Jesus said, "Don't misunderstand why I have come. I did not come to abolish the law of Moses or the writings of the prophets." He said, I didn't come to throw away what you call the Old Testament. He said, I didn't come to throw away the law and the prophets. I didn't come for that. No, I came to accomplish their purpose. See, everything in the law and the prophets speaks of Jesus. He said, I tell you the truth, until heaven and earth disappear, not even the smallest detail of God's law will disappear. Okay? Until heaven and earth disappears. Now, that was not Jesus dying on the cross. That was not Jesus rising from the dead. Jesus said, until heaven and earth disappear, until there is a new heavens and a new earth after the millennial reign. Until heaven and earth disappear, not even the smallest detail of God's law will disappear until its purpose is achieved. So if you ignore the least commandment and teach others to do the same, how many people do I hear today teaching people to obey or to disobey and to ignore things that Moses said, or things that we find in Genesis, or things that we find in Psalms, or things that we find in Malachi? Just ignore those things. That's not for us. That's under the law. I asked a guy one time when he was saying that, I said, well, since Jesus taught us to do those things, well, Jesus was under the law. I said, you know what? I think I'd rather listen to Jesus. He died for me. But they come up with all these crazy ideas. But Jesus said, if you ignore the least commandment and teach others to do the same, you will be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But anyone who obeys God's laws and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Now notice, Jesus said, I didn't come to abolish the law and the prophets. Please forgive me, but he used the law and the prophets to reveal himself. Do you remember the two men as he walked on the road to Emmaus? He opened the scriptures. It said their hearts burned within him as he read to them from the scriptures, but he revealed who he was from the law and the prophets. He didn't tell people to stop reading it. You look at the early church, Acts 18, verse 28. But he refuted the Jews with powerful arguments and public debate. Using the scriptures, he explained to them that Jesus was the Messiah. Now, forgive me, the rest of the Bible wasn't written in those days. The New Testament wasn't written yet. So when Apollos did this, he used the scriptures to explain to them that Jesus was Messiah. He was using the law and the prophets. He didn't stand up and tell everybody, don't read the law and the prophets anymore. He used them to point people to Jesus. Paul, Acts 17, verse 2. As was Paul's customs, he went to the synagogue service, and for 3 Sabbaths in a row, he used the scriptures, the law and the prophets, to reason with the people. 1 Timothy 4, verse 13, Paul said, Timothy, until I get there. Now, Timothy is speaking in Ephesus, in a pure Gentile church. He said, until I get there, focus on reading the scriptures to the church, encouraging the believers and teaching them. He said, hey, read the scriptures, read the law and the prophets to the people. He said, now listen, these things are not to be ignored. They are to be taught. They are to be taught to people. Say, well, Pastor, what is the purpose of the law and the prophets? Well, remember with me all of our teaching in Romans. Do you remember how the law is called a pedagogue? Kind of like a school teacher, but more than a school teacher. The law was like a school teacher that disciplined you and corrected you to bring you to Jesus. This is why we can't throw out the Old Testament today. There's people that need to be brought to Jesus. How do people know right and wrong? How do people know the character of God? We need to continue to teach, not just the writings of Paul, not just the New Testament. We need to continue to teach the law and the prophets.